Hello and welcome to the Source One Countdown to ISM 2016 podcast series. Consider us your on-the-go source for the latest insights in the procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing industry as we get ready for the premier supply chain event of the year.
In this installment of the Countdown to ISM 2016, we continue our spotlight on the conference's People Track. Scott Ottenheimer, Vice President at QBE North America, joins us to discuss his special presentation, the Leadership Fast Track, which aims to help conference attendees understand what breeds success for both employees and their managers in procurement and supply management.
Scott, welcome to the ISM 2016 podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ken.
So I want to talk about the session that you're leading at ISM. So we've been talking to Nassim Malik and Howard Levy, who are the co-chairs of the People Track, and they talked about their vision about the track being about advancing human capital strategies and really focusing folks on advancing their professional careers. So your session is entitled The Leadership Fast Track. So what's the session all about?
Yeah, so the session is about taking a look at how folks have moved up throughout the organization and what strategies they've done to grow their careers. And, you know, I think what we're going to focus on, or at least what I'm focusing on, is mostly innovation. Innovation within procurement, innovation within your industry, the passion that you need for procurement in order to further your career. So it's going to be about a whole mix of things ranging from innovation to data, to analysis, to passion.
So you mentioned innovation, and I think that gets an occasional sort of buzzwordy rap that is just, we're looking for innovation. And, you know, obviously with our sort of consumer-minded focus, we're always looking for the next big thing. But what does innovation mean to you?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I started my career as a consultant, and a lot of what we did was we looked for opportunities to cut costs quickly, and we did. You know, we looked for the, quote, low-hanging fruit, if you will. When I left the consulting world and I went in-house into the insurance industry, I realized, you know, the low-hanging fruit was good for the first year, but after that, we could either continue to renegotiate existing contracts or we could find new opportunities. So what I decided to do was, I knew nothing about the insurance industry when I started. So what I decided to do was, instead of taking a procurement lens, started looking at the lens from our business partners, from the insurance professionals who I had worked with, specifically within claims, and realized that old price, new price, the strategies that we've been used to implementing weren't necessarily applicable. There's a claim, for example. When do you send out an adjuster? When do you not send out an adjuster? How do you optimize the work that you're doing? So the best example I could think of is we had, when I first started, about 200 independent adjusters. And I had thought, okay, well, let's consolidate. Let's get economies of scale, and let's cut costs. But what I soon realized was that doing it that way wasn't necessarily the right answer for this industry. The reason for that is a lot of times these independent adjusters, if you have a loss, they go to the claim based on how much money they make, right? So they'll prioritize a claim based on how much they're getting paid. So when I talk about innovation, I talk about figuring out how quickly we can get an adjuster to a claim at the lowest possible price. So it's creating that optimal model. And of course, the quicker an adjuster gets to a claim, in theory, the less expensive the claim is. So an example is if your basement floods, right, and it takes 5 days for the insurance company to get there, maybe they have to replace carpet, maybe they've got to pay for the drywall, maybe there's mold. But if we get there within 10 hours, and we're able to place everything quicker, that's a whole other idea of cost savings. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the professional services, it's the total cost of ownership. It's looking through a different lens. So I think that's what I mean by innovation.
Sure. So it sounds like for you personally, innovation isn't just about doing something new or different for the sake of being new and different. It's about finding the best way, practically, to accomplish the goal.
Correct. And of course, if you could use technology, if you could use data, if you can use, if you can create optimal models, then yeah, that certainly helps
So your session, is it geared toward young professionals specifically, or are there things that you'll be presenting that can appeal to all stages of professional careers?
I think it would be all stages of professional careers. So whether you're a young professional and you're looking to advance your career, or you've been in your specific industry for quite some time and you're still looking to advance your career, I think that there's truly an opportunity to take something away from the session. And selfishly, I'm hoping that we can get into a discussion, not just me lecturing about things that I've done in my career, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to engage the folks, and I'd like to hear from them, because a lot of folks in the audience, I imagine, will have advanced their careers, and I think that they have some good knowledge to share as well. So if we can make it a discussion, that would be ideal. And on top of that, I think that if you aren't necessarily a professional looking to advance your career, maybe you have folks who work for you that are interested. And again, I think this is an opportunity to help mentor others, to help folks who work for you to move up. So the hope is this could be a good partnership between, the presenters and folks in the audience.
That's an interesting angle, that the onus of being on the fast track isn't just on the individual. They have to have a good support system. Now, that's not to diffuse the onus on that person to take ownership of their career, but you mentioned that some folks who are attending might be managers of other people, and they could glean something about how they can be a better manager so that they can be more clearly on that fast track. I think that's a great focus because it emphasizes sort of the idea of it takes a village to raise a child, right? But in procurement, no man should be an island, right?
Exactly.
So regarding this idea of a fast track, what were the sort of key mile markers for you personally?
That's interesting, because up until you asked this question, I don't think I've ever really thought about it. It's always been just go, 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 and focus on optimal solutions for either your clients or your business partners. So I think from a milestone standpoint, it has been entering the consulting world and then learning as much as I could about as many industries as possible, and then going to an insurance company where I knew nothing about insurance, but I knew about procurement, and the original mindset of, well, if I could buy office supplies, I could buy anything. I think the aha moment was, if you really want to make a difference, you really need to understand the product, the service, the industry that you're in. And I think that was kind of what helped me progress my career, a little quicker than others. Now, I will also say this: timing and luck, that played a huge factor as well. When I was consulting, one of my directors, he became the head of procurement at the insurance company that I'm at. He ended up bringing me over, so that certainly helped. And then he actually left the organization. They brought in a new global head of procurement, and I was convinced that he was going to bring in his own people, but luckily my team and I were able to show him the work that we've done, used data, the business cases that I learned how to do back in the consulting days. We applied to insurance, and he was impressed. Certainly timing, luck, right place at the right time, I think that plays a huge factor.
Well, when did you realize then that you were on the fast track? Maybe not until just recently when ISM asked you to present this session?
I don't even think it was that. I think probably this discussion.
Okay.
I think just asking the question. Because the title of the session, the way I read it, was Fast Track: How These Professionals Race to the Top and Plan on Staying There. Well, that means one thing, but what I was in my mind thinking about presenting was innovation and how anybody can take their career in their hands and move up with, like I said, innovation, timing and luck, hard work, all the above. Mm-hmm. So I think it was probably a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
that maybe was that aha moment.
Then for your personal journey with going from consulting and as you said, hard work, innovation, do you think that in the near future that this idea of the fast track won't be the fast track anymore because it'll be the new norm, that everyone should follow this kind of model because it breeds success?
So I personally, if I create an analysis, I like to present it. If I do the legwork, I like to take the credit for it, of course. And I realize that if I like that, the people who work for me will probably like that as well. And maybe a year ago, we had a presentation to our chief claims officer on a legal optimization strategy that one of my employees did. And I had said, hey, you did fantastic work. I want you presenting. I want you to take the credit. And she had said, no, I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't like being in the spotlight. I like being behind the scenes. So it kind of depends on who you are and what your career goals are, because there's certainly different headaches when you move up within an organization. There's different types of work to be done. So
Right.
It's not necessarily for everybody. And believe me, there's certain parts about my previous career that I miss. Rarely negotiating anymore. Mostly my team is doing that. I'm doing a lot of management reports, employee reviews, employee training. So it's completely different. So I think it really just depends on what you want and how you want your career to be. So I don't think there's a one solution that fits all.
I think that's a great perspective, because I think there's a tendency at industry conferences that presentations are focused on, this is what you must do, this is the goal you should be striving for. But it sounds like you're going to be presenting more of a balanced view to say this is what you can expect, that as you advance, you may not be doing the things that you previously did before, and you may miss them. So you should understand before you go down this path, really consider, is that the direction in which you want to go?
And to add to that, moving up is not necessarily always better,
Right.
Because you don't want to be in a position to fail. You don't want to be in a position to not like your job. It's okay to be comfortable with where you're at. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you love what you do, if you wake up in the morning and you love going to work, that I think is the most important. You're excited about the work you're doing. You're doing a good job. You're working hard. Everybody has different goals, and I think that's completely okay. I'm certainly traveling more, than I thought I would be. I know that, if I would have been at more of the senior manager level, I wouldn't be traveling as much. But when I was promoted to the vice president level, I've certainly been traveling more. So there's definitely lifestyle decisions. And again, to me, there's no right or wrong. The only wrong is not doing your best. Other than that, I don't think there's a right or wrong.
Yeah, and that the final measure of your progress isn't what's your job title.
Exactly. It's not your job title. It's not your salary. It's so much more than that.
So you mentioned that you, prior to your role, VP Claims and Procurement, that you worked as a consultant. I came from a consulting background as well. So what is sort of a two-part question. What made you pursue consulting earlier in your career? And what elements of your experience in consulting do you think have been success factors for you?
Why did I choose consulting? Well, I chose consulting because when I graduated college, I wanted to get into real estate, but it was a horrible time for real estate. So consulting was the next best option. I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day at the same place. I wanted to go to multiple places. I wanted to learn multiple industries, and I wanted to learn from some of the smartest people that I could. So I chose the consulting route, and I got extremely lucky. This is where timing and luck comes in. I was probably the last person to sign my employment agreement. And the way that this firm worked was the quicker you signed your employment agreement, the better chance you have of getting the department that you preferenced. I had preferenced strategy and operations. I did not preference strategic sourcing. And a few months later, strategy and operations group was sold. And some of my colleagues were let go, and I was very fortunate that I had signed last, not first.
Right.
And that's the luck factor. As far as what I took away from consulting, or if I would recommend consulting, I mean, it was the best decision I made. I learned how to use Microsoft Excel without using a mouse, which is huge, which saves a bunch of time. But even more so than that, I learned how to think a little differently. I learned how to think not just what the paper says, or what the data says, but thinking beyond it, and really thinking about ways to optimize, right? And that's another buzzword, is optimize, but it's true. You think about all the things that you've done originally with old price, new price, service levels, key performance indicators. But when you start thinking about it in different ways, well, should we really be outsourcing this? What would the cost be if we did it in-house? If we saved $10,000, $20,000, $10 million by outsourcing, would quality go down? Quality go up? How does that impact our customers? How does that impact employee turnover? How does that? There's so many factors that one decision can make that you have to think about. And I learned that in the consulting world. It's not a simple decision that only impacts one thing. These decisions impact quite a few things.
Yeah, one thing that I took away from my years of consulting was that the role of a consultant is someone who, among many other things, but asks good questions. And it sounds like that was your experience too, because when you got to your job, as you said, that without a background in insurance, you had to rely on the stakeholders to give you the background that you needed. So you needed to be able to talk to them. You need to be able to speak their language, even not having the background, but to be able to get them to articulate what their vision was, what their pain points were, how they were going about things. And then you putting your problem-solving hat on, find the best way to solve that problem.
Absolutely. And, I will also say this, is honesty also goes a long way. And what I mean by that is I had these stakeholders who saw me and said, well, what the heck does this guy know about my industry?
Right.
And I would tell them, I would say, look, I'm not an expert in insurance. I'm not an expert in claims, but I am an expert in procurement and in process optimization and supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I could learn from you and you can learn from me, this will be a really good partnership. What I think we've done is they've taught me more about claims than I've ever wanted to know. And I've probably taught them more about procurement, supply chain, Excel models than they want to know. But we all work for the same company. We all get the same, our paycheck has the same company name on it. So if we partner, if we act as a team, then it works. I didn't want to go and pretend that, I was some hotshot who understood not only procurement, but their industry, because it won't be fair to lie to them or to myself.
Yeah, I think your perspective is going to be great for the attendees of ISM because they'll get to hear these things that they might not have otherwise heard. The emphasis on honesty, the emphasis on exposure to different areas, the emphasis on your progress not being measured by your paycheck or your job title and so forth. So what are you personally hoping to get out of ISM 2016?
Well, I'm hoping to get a couple things. Number one is I'm hoping to attend as many sessions as I possibly can to learn from other professionals within the industry, hear their stories. That's number one. But number two is I'm really hoping that we have a well-attended session. And by the way, I think we're one of the last sessions before the happy hour. So we're going to really have to pull some people in to make sure people are engaged, because I really want to have a discussion. I want to learn how folks, whether they're young professionals, and I want to hear what their aspirations are. I want to hear what they've done. I want to learn as much as I can from them as they learn from me. And if we can have an open dialogue, I think that a lot of good can come out of the discussion. And I'd love to take away some new ideas that I haven't thought about and apply them to my current role, whether it's ideas to help manage my team better, maybe manage my manager better, or innovative ways to reduce costs.
Obviously, it's clear that ISM 2016 and your speaking engagement is not an opportunity for you to toot your own horn. It's just you're looking at this as a learning opportunity for you.
Absolutely. I think that's, if everybody goes in with that mindset, I think this will be a great conference, because look, if you think about it, people do love to hear themselves speak. We know that, and they like to share stories. But if they can listen as well, then I think a lot of good can come out of this conference.
Yeah. So we're a little under a month away. Are you all prepped? Is everything squared away for your talk and for travel and all?
Yes, I have the presentation ready to go. I don't know what I'm wearing yet, but I'll figure that out the day before. And hotels booked, flights booked, so I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
Great. Well, Scott, that's all the time we have for today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to tell us about this session. Really looking forward to it.
Thanks, Ken, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to meeting everybody at the conference in Indianapolis.
Great. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Source One Countdown to ISM 2016 podcast series. Remember to visit us online at www.sourceoneinc.com. For more insights from our strategic sourcing and procurement experts, check out our blog at www.strategicsorcerer.com. Want to provide us feedback? Have an idea for another podcast? Let us know by emailing us at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.